They saw her. In the 60s, these African countries, these are like our children, who are like our cleaners the other day, they now want to take authority. So the Obote that you guys don't want to respect, and in Kwame Nkrumah, no, this is important. The Obote that some of you guys don't want to respect, yeah, together with the Kwame Nkrumah, not even Julius Nyerere, by the way, okay? By the way, and I'm saying very authoritative, check, you know, was amongst one of the few.
So you want to claim that Obote was more Pan-African than Julius Nyerere?
Much more resolved about these issues, but I'm not comparing. But I'm saying the two to make a point, yeah? That they stood up and the circumstances in their countries and the challenges they faced and the challenges they addressed. That's what I'm trying to say. You could only compare, you could only put the league of Milton Obote and Julius and Kwame Nkrumah. So this guy stood firm. But the enemy of Africa saw the two of them as the biggest problem. You get the point? The biggest problem against them, and yet they're the proponents of the Pan-Africanism you espouse to.
Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Yes, the Spy Uganda, the Spy Television, Detective UG, www.detectiveug.com, www.spyuganda.com. Comrade Ochieno.
I like your hat.
How are you? You like my hat? This hat must be reminding you about me, Obote. No, Amin, not Obote. I didn't see Obote put on this one. There must be Amin. It reminds you of Amin, isn't it?
A bit of Amin, more for, in terms of presidential stuff, is more for Kenyatta. But yes, Amin's guys would go like that. What's going on? I know you like Amin. You like Amin, me, I don't like him.
You don't like him?
No.
Amin was a Pan-African.
No, he wasn't.
Me, as far as I have dug research.
You've been digging in the wrong places.
And refusing to listen to whoever calls him Swain or this or you are Obote, because you and you Obote's people and Amin's people, you will of course at loggerheads. But me, as an outsider, I have seen some good deeds about Amin. Every person has, of course, bad things. Even you and me, we make mistakes. But yes, the intentions sometimes is what I look at. The intentions. Amin had good intentions for his country. So me...
Amin did not have good intentions.
Why?
Amin was used as a stooge.
By who?
Willingly.
By who?
By anti-Africanist forces.
Like?
British, American, Israel.
It is the same Amin, after acquiring those skills of how to deal with them, who came and chased them. The same Amin you're saying was used by British.
Amin actually didn't chase them.
He chased them.
No, we chased them.
No, it is Amin.
No, we are the ones who chased them.
Now then you're trying to rewrite history. You're trying to rewrite.
I am helping you write proper history. No. You know, before we came...
I don't have it on record that Obote chased anybody as regards the colonial masters. I have it on record that it is Amin actually.
Which record? Who wrote that record?
Who wrote you as Obote people?
I am telling you as a matter of authority.
Okay, which... okay, let's open up. Let's start.
And by the way, you're going to pay me for this.
For what?
This is a special lecture. It's called African Ugandan History 01.
The first one of its own? The first of its own? Okay, let's go.
So 20 minutes.
I'm getting my pen to write.
Every Wednesday morning. Facts demystified.
Demystified.
You know, Africans have got a tendency to pick what they want without digging under. I saw confused Africans, including Africans from the Caribbeans, by his actions on the Asians. And some Africans got very excited with Idi Amin when he was now answering back to who? to the West. But that is after they had fallen out. So in other words, people were liking Amin of 1972 over the expulsion of Asians, and they're forgetting about Amin that very same year, thousands of Ugandans, indigenous Africans, had been killed by the same Amin. You see the irony? So mid-70s there, Amin is hosting the OAU, and Amin is talking Africanism, and they're forgetting what Amin did to perceived threats, perceived Orio, the Janani Luums, Ernie Oremas, and others, both of whom is. That is the era of Africans. Amin was indeed a very courageous soldier who brutally worked for the British in the British Army of King's African Rifles. And I'm told he did havoc with Africans before independence. In 1962 at independence, we now had a new nation, new army, to build a new army with a new commander-in-chief. The Obote Mutesa administration chose that of our existing African commanders, black commanders and indigenous Ugandan commanders, we need to use them as trainers of a younger army. And so Amin, one Hussein, plus I think 2-3 others. Hussein, I think, was of Asian origin. You know, they were captains. So they would have been the highest ranking black Africans in the army. So that's how they progressed. So Amin, by 1966 there, had become, I think, lieutenant colonel or something like that. But they're now younger people, the Uto Jokes and many others, the Brigadier Okoyas, younger people, educated, more trained, ranked. So by 1971, he kills Okoya. What you're crediting Amin with, because of imperialist media and prejudice, and some politics of hate that NRA played around with and used and also continues to use. Nobody who's a Pan-Africanist like you has come out to address the radical. I'm not making it political to credit UPC, but I would not apologize over it. The dismantling of the feudal system of 1966-67, where one kingdom of many kingdoms decides to want to break the Republic of Uganda. And central government responds thereby coming out with the 1967 Republican Constitution. That's a radical thing, meaning Pan-Africanists wanting to dismantle, break up, and then recreate a possibility of creating one African government without conflict, contradiction. But most importantly, from 68, your government, your elected government, begins the push which Iran did, nationalizing key sectors of industry, nationalizing key sectors of the economy, and the move to the left and common man's charter. And then hell broke loose with our friends from the West. People who were concerned that we had opened up African banks, Uganda Commercial Bank, African Bank, Uganda Development Bank, African Bank, the Cooperative Bank, you know, to enable African people. In the 60s, where is this credit going to come? And then after that, we say, we send forces, we want to go and liberate Congo. You know? After those anti-Africanist forces killed Patrice Lumumba. Why? We want to bring Congo on board and all of us so that we form one United States of Africa government, which you stand for. Nobody wants to give that credit. Now, because the enemies of Africa saw the leaders of that being Obotes, and then they said, come 1971, how do we break this man? Obote. Because of those things I've told you. And most importantly, they're disorganizing, meaning Obote is disorganizing their looting of Congo, disorganizing their concentration of the Mobutu slacks, disorganizing by also building alternative African leadership in Congo, disorganizing them here by building one strong, united Uganda with the economy and everything else, and people and education and things like that. And once he crosses the line going to South Africa, being the voice to expose them about their appetite, South Africa say, we need to get rid of this man. After that, got rid of who? Kwame Nkrumah in 67, yes. At that stage, they get the man people want to call a hero, Idi Amin. To use Idi Amin to get rid of Obote. That is what happened. You see, now one of the things, and I think Buganda now appreciates this, that it's bad manners to use somebody whom you think an enemy to an enemy is necessarily your friend. Not at all. You see? So Amin is used to dismantle our founding values. And with the backing of the Western media, as you are a media person, discredit Obote, all these crude stories being told, they can't stand the test of integrity and evidence. So Amin comes in 1979. So Amin's so-called 18 reasons why he overthrew the government, they without foundation. They created reasons. You can see they're the same reason that these ones who came from the bush, another lot of liars who came from the bush, used. And now you see 40 years, where are they? Where are they? Nothing. So that's the mean. Now, when Amin in 1972 took that action, what you don't know, now forget about UPC, forget about Obote. Once Amin did the dirty job for Anglo-America and the soon-to-be Epstein-Netanyahu group.
Soon-to-be.
The Israeli ambassador, Israeli head of station, Israeli head of station here in Kampala, is the one who told Amin that Obote is coming to deal with you because of killing Brigadier Koya and because of your looting of Congo. So after he's dealt with the appetite things in Singapore, so you can see what your country and your government and my leader, our leader, was working on that we don't want to give credit. So, but we can help you to counter him. So the Amin coup was these guys, the West, using Amin to do their bidding. But from Amin's perspective, that's one area where people need to understand Amin. But of course, it's not very well discussed. Amin overthrew the government in order to do what? To save his neck. But it was not his original idea to overthrow the government. The idea came from the people who helped him to overthrow the government. And that is why as of January 1971, here in Kampala, Israeli commandos were in charge of the tanks, Amin's tanks, to help him consolidate Kampala. Now, you can't be a Pan-Africanist and clap for that. So Amin was a stooge and equipment used to overthrow. But why overthrow? Obote was overthrown because it was a Pan-Africanist obstacle, an obstacle to external forces.
But how come? But how come Amin dealt decisively?
No. I'm coming to that.
With the colonialists, which Obote failed to do.
What do you mean?
If Obote was a Pan-African and Amin was not, how come when Amin took power, he actually implemented Pan-African ideals than Obote, at least on the surface?
I wish we were in class.
We are. And these your books? Isn't this my pen and my book?
I have just told you.
Yeah, we're in class.
I have just told you the Pan-Africanist agenda on which Obote and Nkrumah stood. Yeah? One, that they pushed for the Organization of African Unity. And Obote is a founder member with Nkrumah, 63. We want one African government. So these are the brains. Number two, the only two brains who worked on the strategy for how Africa should integrate was Milton Obote and Kwame Nkrumah. Others had their own opinion, by the way. That's on the record, you know. Then number three, fast forward on the strategic thing of regional integration, because the task was so huge, was let's build East Africa, let's build West Africa, but also let's focus on the liberation, particularly of South Africa, which was fully still in the yoke of these people, hence forming the frontline states. Obote was official spokesperson, and as I said, that's one of the reasons it was overthrown. So now the guy is overthrown because of Pan-Africanism, and then you say there's no evidence. So, and the person who was used to overthrow him is the one you created and claimed when Amin should actually be hanged for treason, you know, for killing, from a Pan-Africanist perspective, you know, for allowing the agencies against Pan-Africanism to use him to kill a Pan-Africanist dream and kill the head of the liberation movements, in the voice of the liberation movement, in this case, Milton Obote. So that's a contradiction. So you get that point. But number two, fast forward. After that had happened, what you forget, I told you, the indigenous banks that the British really hated Obote for, you know, the nationalization agenda is what Traore is doing. So you can't clap for Traore and then you abuse Milton Obote. Even young Traore is a good guy. He will understand this thing. He will be very concerned. You see? I told you that not only did we start by building Africanist institution, meaning dismantling colonialism, and I'm going to give you a better answer. Obote was doing it pragmatically, systematically, and in an organized way, and in a much more less confrontational way. But the direct confrontation way is in Congo, where he takes forces and resources to deal with the people who killed Lumumba, at the same time to support Lumumba's forces who had remained there.
That is Lumumba.
Yes, and I can say that until today, I'm yet waiting for a phone call for somebody to say that, Joseph, that is fuel for you because you're doing Pan-Africanist work. None. And yet this is what I do full time, you see. But Obote did it and committed it, including his government, including Uganda, on behalf of Congo. You need to credit that in order for the rest of Africa to credit Uganda and you for your contributions for attempting to liberate yourselves and to liberate Congo. Meaning that actually even Congolese don't appreciate this thing. Meaning that we lost the government. Thabo Mbeki, on his inaugural speech, he said it, but still in a shy way. He said that in our liberation struggles, you know, people died and all sorts of things. He said even governments were overthrown because of our efforts. He basically meant
Ugandan government led by Obote.
Yes, Obote, yes. You know? So, now, apart from nationalization, meaning picking Ugandan resources into our hands, which annoyed these guys, we now started banks, open up in schools, institutions, building an independent Uganda with an independent open East Africa, moving towards broader East African integration, economically, socially, politically, and everything. For us in the 70s, when you guys were still, you planned kids, you know, you were still on consideration. We were studying about the Trans-Africa Highway from Mombasa to Accra. You know,
Ghana.
Yeah, the Great North Road from Cape to Cairo. You know, these visionary kind of projects. Where are they today? You know, today the railways that we extended, to Pakwach is dead by this bunch. You know, by these Amin's friends. You know, Amin and Museveni's friend, the Museveni's. Look, so come in 1968, on top of the Common Man's Charter, which everybody must read the Common Man's Charter, you realize that apart from seeking to dismantle imperial and economic and political established system, it was a consolidation of the African mandate in terms of ordinary people. But part of that was also another dispute, the Asian question. The Asian question was this: where we had Bayindi in this country, and you know one or two big Bayindi. In fact, one or two big Bayindi. I need to talk to them one of these days and see where they come from, because the late Shafiq Rain was the master of them. Fantastic guy. If he did not die, the map of this country would be very different, including my map and that of UPC. Because he was an indigenous-born Ugandan, an Asian born in Uganda, who appreciated Uganda and appreciated the values of UPC. And he used to call his fellow Asians who were pushed by money, some names I will not say on this program. 1968, 69, the big debate was between Uganda, Britain, and India. The issue was, as we're consolidating our independence and pushing toward broader Pan-Africanism agenda, we are a non-racialist political party. Pan-Africanism is not racialism, but it is an unapologetic quest for total independence and emancipation of African people.
Self-determination.
Yeah?
Self-determination.
That was our position. Okay.
Yes.
That was our position.
I get
Still is our position. So then if that's the case, we're saying, if there is an Asian in Uganda, legally,
not illegally, but legally,
follows the rules and plays by the game, we are a non-racialist.
He's an African.
We are a non-racialist. No, we'll go into those definitions. We have no problem. We live together side by side as brethren of humanity. But the issue then was, at independence, there were Asians in Uganda, I'm telling you for the first time, the Asians in Uganda who were British citizens. Okay?
Asians
at independence, yes.
Who are British citizens.
Or who qualified. At independence, the Asians who were Indian citizens. Yeah? At independence, like Shafiq Rain and Godial Singh, you know, there were Asians who were Ugandan citizens and also members of Uganda People's Congress and Uganda National Congress. No problem. Yeah? But at independence, and up to 1967-68, the Asians in Uganda who were stateless. Thanks to the wisdom of my president, my party, my government, the people, the government of the people of Uganda, the civil government, not barbaric government that wakes up in the morning and decides what to do. We said, Uganda, India, and Britain, we shall discuss this pot of Asians. But before we do that, we say, look, Asians in Uganda who are British citizens surely should go to Britain. And British should take them because they're their citizens. You know? Asians who are Indian citizens should go to India. Huh?
What about Ugandans?
No.
What about Ugandans who are in India?
No, let me continue. Okay, yeah.
Yes, you want to continue, but here you want Asians.
No, you're mixing the point, and it's an important point because I don't want to lose it. I'll come back to that actually later, whatever point you want to raise.
Okay.
You know, so Asians who are Indians to go to India, yeah, and Asians who are Ugandan citizens, we have no problem. Yeah.
Asians who are Ugandan citizens,
we have no problem.
Yes.
Now, these stateless Asians, we said, let it be discussed by the three. But Britain must accept Asians who are their citizens.
In Britain.
From Uganda, yes. You know, it's a silly thing. So we even negotiate to beg these guys to take their people. This is the thing that people don't understand. And by this, sometimes it irritates me. One, as somebody who's lived in Britain, but number two, as a scholar on migration. But three, as a Pan-Africanist. And four, as a citizen of this country, by descent, whose country has been used and abused. You see, so what cheek that Britain wants us to beg them to take their own citizens. India sort of reluctantly wants us to beg them or don't to take their citizens. Yeah? And here, Uganda is being compelled to take people who are not their citizens. You see the difference? We had no problem with Asians who were, by the way, Asians who were, the Uganda People's Congress and Uganda National Congress unapologetically had Asians in its top executive. As I said, Shifikaren was one of them. And they had no problem. So these are that's why ideology is a beautiful thing. Because ideology takes away the nonsense of identity, meaning silly tribalism, takes the nonsense of religious kind of stuff, takes the nonsense of your light skin or crooked, whatever kind of stuff. I don't want to use those words, you know? But sees the human personality in the image of God. So for us, we had no problem with people who qualified.
So I want us to
I want to conclude that, but you know, I think it will not conclude in a way in which you may, because it's important. So, because of the arrogance of Britain, yeah, they saw in the 60s, these African countries, these are like our children, who are like our cleaners the other day, they now want to take authority. So the Obote that you guys don't want to respect, and in Kwame Nkrumah, no, this is important.
No
the Obote that some of you guys don't want to respect, yeah, together with the Kwame Nkrumah, not even Julius Nyerere, by the way, okay? By the way, and I'm saying very authoritative, check, you know, was amongst one of the few.
So you want to claim that Obote was more Pan-African than Julius Nyerere?
Much more resolved about these issues, but I'm not comparing. But I'm saying the two to make a point, yeah? That they stood up and the circumstances in their countries and the challenges they faced and the challenges they addressed. That's what I'm trying to say. You could only compare, you could only put the league of Milton Obote and Julius and Kwame Nkrumah. So this guy stood firm. But the enemy of Africa saw the two of them as the biggest problem. You get the point? The biggest problem against them, and yet they're the proponents of the Pan-Africanism you are espoused to. So we need to get rid of them. That's how they used Idi Amin to get rid. Now finally, Amin comes in. Do you know the first place Amin goes to?
I wasn't around.
You planned kids, man. You're still under construction, under concentration.
I was born in Museveni's government. I'm going to die in Museveni's government.
You will not die in Museveni's government.
I will die in Museveni's government.
No.
Because after him there is a continuation.
What?
There is a continuation through his son. So
what is his son? His son is not Tiberuhurwa, you know.
Tibuhaburwa. Yeah, I failed to mention that.
Tibuhaburwa, okay. Okay, whatever the case. But in Jesus' name, may there be change in this country so that all of us can live together.
It is the same Jesus who brought him. Museveni. It is the same Jesus we are praying to.
No, you guys, the forces who brought him. And some of them were hanging on. Some of them were
the
hanging
Jesus we are praying to. He's the one who has brought him here.
Leave my Jesus.
And he's the one who has groomed That's Jesus.
Which Jesus?
The same Jesus.
I don't know that Jesus.
Let's go back to our point before you forget.
So, Museveni, Amin. The first official big trip Amin made outside Uganda was where?
Saudi Arabia?
To Israel.
Israel.
Oh, you guys, lest you forget, to where? To Israel. To go and receive a thank you for a job well done. Which Pan-Africanist?
What's wrong with that? First tell me. First explain. In 2 minutes, explain why that is wrong. Why it was wrong.
Israel and Britain had used Amin to overthrow a democratically elected government in Uganda.
Of Obote.
of Obote that some people don't like for whatever reason. But that was the Pan-Africanist government of Uganda. So Pan-Africanists cannot clap for that. Number two, the government was being overthrown, not for any reason, but because it was a threat to external forces.
Including Israel.
Including Israel. You see? So this is the point I'm trying to make. And I'm really pushing this because I know that people don't get it and some people miss it, but some people want to fudge it. But for the purposes of Africa going forward, I have no issue with Israel. Israel is homeland to whatever.
If Israel was a friend to Amin government, how come one time there was an incident where
because you're quiet. Because
Amin hijacked an Israeli plane?
Because you're impatient. Boer apartheid South Africa.
The Boers, the white South Africans.
Whom Obote was official head of dismantling, was the #1 a friend of Israel in Uganda. You see? So arms and everything else is a deal between the two.
I'm following.
So it's about imperialist white superiority backed by Zionism extremism. Africans, wake up.
Wake up.
Obote had gone on to say that as of 1971, Ugandan passports, which were freely available for liberation strugglers in Southern Africa, at will, ANC and others, which we provided and for which we have no apology, and for which, unfortunately, these guys don't thank us enough. Maybe I should go to South Africa and get a third wife. Yes. Huh? Okay, but we hold that there. Making a point. Our passports were, you were free to travel anywhere in the world except South Africa and Israel. Did you know that? Yes. That is the Obote that people don't want to clap for. But also forget about Obote. I'm using Obote as the symbol of the struggles that you and I are involved in today. And this as the contextual symbol to help you understand the dynamics of why Anglo-America are bombing and destroying poor Iran. Why? Because as early as 1952-53, Iran then chose to nationalize their resources. And they were fought
to the detriment of America and
to push them away, pushing away particularly Britain at the time, and particularly Britain at the time. So push them away and impose a Museveni-like, impose an Amin-like man called that Shah of Iran. A stooge, a Nyampala, Shah of Iran. Iranians fought back, and in 1979, the revolution that knocked off that person. That was real liberation, not this crooked thing coming from Luwero bushes. You get the point?
That crooked thing coming from Luwero bushes has sustained Uganda for the last 40 years. And it has enabled you to return from exile from London.
They've done them very well. When this bunch came from...
You spent 27 years in Britain as a political asylee. You are back here, you are drinking your coffee from Toro, you're having good time in sauna, I'm always with you. 40 years, don't call those guys jokers. That's why I disagree with you.
Those guys did not find me in the bush. They found me a student at Makerere University. And when I was at Makerere University, I was very healthy. When I was at Makerere University, I was very clever. When I was at Makerere University, all of us were together. Children from Toro to Tororo to Kigezi to everywhere. When we were at Makerere University, we were studying for free. When we were at Makerere University, we had everything else. When we were at Makerere University, we could go to Malago Hospital and get medical treatment for free. When at Makerere University, after we graduated, we got jobs. And when we got jobs, we could afford housing and everything else, including public housing for free. Today, I was just meeting a woman who helps around here, who's got a 6th child in 16/6, who passed excellently on the top end, but the child is now looking to become a driver. My friend, part of the second conversation I'm going to have, exactly 1 month ago, a friend of mine who lived hardly 1 kilometer, I think about 1 kilometer from here, died on a national hospital, you know, on a theater bed, an operation bed, when power went off. Don't make me cry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So
the same government
I'll continue.
I want us to move.
I'll continue. 71. Israeli friends of Amin say, this man, we are not going to arm him. So they're not going to arm Amin because they'd used him. But they're also not going to arm Amin because these guys play with global power. That's why I'm saying Africans need to wake up. So if they had checked Uganda's economic emergence under Milton Obote, they're not willing to have Uganda militarized by Idi Amin, who might actually change position with them in Uganda. So they refused. Amin left and went to London, had tea with Queen Elizabeth. Now, me, I never had tea with with Amin. Queen Elizabeth had tea with
yeah,
Amin.
because she's the queen.
Now, I'm saying, no,
you're not the king.
No, me, I have had tea with many presidents, but not presidents who are suspect of killing people. So my point is this. Britain, who brought Amin, Amin went to ask for what? For money. And he was given little money, not what he was asking for, and Amin was annoyed.
From Britain?
From Britain. It is when Amin left Britain that he said, these guys have played me, I could as well go back. Amin goes to Saudi Arabia, his fellow Muslims, now you can see the change. Tell Saudis that Uganda is 95% Muslims, and Saudis give him money. Amin goes to Gaddafi in Libya, said, you are a soldier, I'm a soldier, your fellow Muslims are brother. Gaddafi begins giving him arms. Saudis give him money. That is the mean you're talking about. Now, to show, you know, like girls when people relationship don't work, to show that I can show you that I can also survive, Amin decided, because the relationship had now died. The friendship had died with the West. So Amin says with Britain. So Amin knew the discussions around the Asian question. So the Asian question was not initiated by Amin. Amin found the Asian question there, except he did not only speed it up, but he did it erroneously. Do you now understand? You are now very happy that this lecture is coming to a very good conclusion. So the Asian question in Uganda was being dealt with politically and legally and diplomatically and in a civil way. So Amin simply comes because he's annoyed with the British and say, you take your people. You see, that is the context and circumstance. In any case, to be fair to Amin, even those take your people, some people, not all Asians left Uganda, and some Asians who left Uganda were also compensated by Amin. But here I'm trying to talk about the power of those Anglo-interesting forces that want to subdue Africa. That's why I say, wake up Africa. So look, my brother, Milton Obote was a Pan-Africanist who was checked very early on with Nkrumah, checked on very early on with Lumumba. But unfortunately for them, in 1979, after we had now successfully got rid of Idi Amin, the British thought that Obote is going to come back again. That's why they got Lule, gave Lule to Nyerere and told Nyerere that Lule should come. This mild doctor, it's written in a book called by David Owen, the then foreign secretary, that we wanted to push this mild children's doctor to lead rather than Obote. Why? Not because Obote was bad for Uganda, it was extremely the best, but Obote was bad for their imperialist businesses. Africans, Ugandans, wake up.
Thank you very much, Comrade Joseph Ochieno. This is Comrade Joseph Ochieno. He's a spokesperson, permanent spokes for the dead Milton Obote and the living one. Now the one, because he died, he's not speaking for the idea. And so you will never fault him for that. Thank you, Mr. Ochieno. Let's move on. Ochieno, let's talk now about Iran, Israel, American war. The status now. America first was blaming Iran for blocking the Strait of Hormuz. That was a catastrophe to the entire world. You can't do that. That will mean you're a bad person. Before you know it, America is blocking the Strait of Hormuz. the ships that Iran is clearing after meeting their requirements, including payment, they reach ahead, they find a blockade by America. Iran is blocking ships that are passing through its land. America, you are blocking ships that are passing through whose land? Not American land. This is exactly what America is still doing in Cuba. That because America knows the acts they are doing are ungodly, they don't want to stain their country. They get a piece of Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. They create a jail there. And in that jail they do heinous acts to their suspects, to their convicts. But because somebody told them, those are two bad things, you can't do it on our land. Yes, you can do it on another person's land. And they found that befitting Cuba. Same, they took that part of Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. Are they trying to do the same on Iranian territory? Because now they have taken a part of the Strait of Hormuz that they are able to block. This is the same act you were castigating Iran for. That how can you do that? But then you are doing it the same way. Yes. So let me hear you, my elder.
When I was telling you to salute Milton Obote, thank you, and to pray for his soul, that this man stood not only for the interest of the people of this country, stood for his values, the values that I share, and stood for the interests of the African personality, meaning broadest Pan-Africanist values. But there is something else. It was also about the question of fundamental rights of sovereignty, self-determination, and a challenge to a global order which is premised on the power of the powerful, however criminally minded they might be. And so, accordingly, I have suggested, who gives America the right to go and police a particular corner of the Mediterranean Sea? Who gives America the right to come and police the Gulf of Mogadishu? I told you in the programs that America's best stooge in the region is the regime that you hail, that they've got 40 years experience. They take Ugandan boys and girls to go and suffer for Americans in Somalia. I said the Somali thing is on behalf of America, but they don't want their guys to die. No, it's hypocritical. Now, the biggest challenge is that African countries, I want to stick to Africa, have not been willing to challenge it. It's only Cyril Ramaphosa who seem to, on this occasion, have been slightly clearer, South Africa, on the question of American aggression in the Middle East, on the question of American and their NATO allies in Ukraine, and I don't know who else. And then Namibia. Namibia has got a fantastic political leadership when it comes to the global polity. Namibia. They're globally very apt there. But beyond that, forgive me if there may be one or two, three others that I don't know. But the continent is silent.
But what I want to know is what makes it more criminal for America to do what they're doing in Iran on blockade of Strait of Hormuz. What do you read from them? Are they following the international law?
No, of course not.
Are they following the UN Charter? Are they following what is their script that they are following? That
no, the global bully boy. That's the saying, global bully boy. That's what they're doing. By the way, the Americans have even broken their own domestic law. You know, Congress hasn't authorized Donald Trump to go to war. And it has been suggested in a particular section of America that partly because of Donald Trump's and Netanyahu's names in Epstein's scandal, where they used and abused women and young girls, you know, it's something which is diversionary, and that's why I deliberately always refer to it. So actually, holding factors constant, it's actually possible that after the end of this war, whenever that end is, unfortunately, after huge loss of lives and property, you know, Donald Trump is a candidate for impeachment in America. And God forbid, I hope he's actually impeached, you know, in America. But at least that's where systems work. Unfortunately, because of the powers the American Constitution gives to the president, he remains the commander-in-chief, and so he's still able to order top civil servants and top soldiers, top commanders to go and do as he sees fit. But I just hope that at some stage, you know, senior commanders, including the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, will come out and simply defy him, you know, and say no. No. Global imperialism, as we started as a topic, is an ideology, but it's also something linked to interests of individuals who control the system. I think the Israeli lobby and the Zionist extremism control the world. It has been suggested that Netanyahu, who's an Epstein guy, who has almost over 40 years, by the way. I have seen Netanyahu from the time when this Nyerere bunch chased me from Uganda. I saw Netanyahu, you know...
you have a lot of Lugezi. That's why they chased you.
Lugezi?
You have a lot of Lugezi.
No.
Nyongo, you have a lot of Nyongo.
Guys, man, you know, my God will forgive them. But look, you notice...
But what, the people from BBC, why did they chase Ochieno?
Ask Museveni and Besigye.
Because of your Nyongo. Hey, Besigye also was involved in your chasing.
I don't know. He was a top person there. And he was one of the people I offended. Yeah, so, but I'm not saying he's involved, you know, I'm just saying, ask them. Those were the indirect clappers of those days. But these days, I don't know. I don't know what affairs has caused this tension. But look, so Netanyahu, you see his accent. You notice he's got an American accent.
He's articulate. And the accent is...
So the point is, he's an American Jew. And he grew up and spent a lot of time in America. And about 40 years ago, the earliest part of these things, Netanyahu started hobnobbing between Washington and that. So Netanyahu's dream has come true, almost like Museveni's dream of ruling for 40 years has come true.
Museveni still has some 10 years to go. His dream was 50 years.
52 it was. 50 Basita clan thing.
Yeah, 50 years. So now after
when I saw that Basita...
After him, then Moses comes.
Then when I saw that...
Then after him, General Saleh comes, I think. After him, Moses' son comes. Then after him, I come. When I come, we will correct the things. We have a plan.
My Jesus, give me.
We have a plan.
I'll wait for you.
After all those, I come. When I come, I will bring the Pan-African platform.
I am relieved that there is hope through.
I don't know, but then where will you be by then? You will be with your God in heaven.
No, I'll be in Agongara and very much alive. You know, the time we rule, you and I, I'm going to be here for quite some time. I'm going to be around for a long time. But look, so America and Israel, okay, Israel has always wanted to subdue the Middle East. The Zionist extremists in Israel basically want to control the entire Holy Land and recreate it as part of Israel. If they can have their way, they want to annex the whole of Palestine and control Lebanon as an extension, and the remaining Arab neighbor states as basically satellite nations. That is basically the idea. And remember, it would have been a creation of a nation that did not exist 100 years ago. So changing the old Palestine to a new Israel. Basically, that's the idea, and perhaps larger. And number two, for them to sustain themselves like that, knowing that they're doing it by force, they don't want any apparent threat and apparent power at par with them. And that power, the only viable power there would be Iran, because Iran is the oldest civilization with a fantastic kind of history and a built-in capacity to challenge Israel at par. And so beyond that also, they don't want a power who's got to be the nuclear capacity. India is nuclear armed, Pakistan is possibly, but the relationship is different and the identity is different. So the biggest threat is Iran. And so to subdue Iran is also to manage Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, the Emirati states, and control the natural resources. And the natural resources control is for who? For the Epstein boys. You know, let it be done in such a manner that London, Washington, and others control these things at the top. They're top elites, and then you, the ordinary people, play the game. So basically, that's what's happening. So it happened in that somehow Americans, either in terms of madness or extreme, or my Jesus, closed his eyes, and then they re-elected Trump. You know, the craziest president really in history. So they had him, and then they had the Zionist Epstein guy, Netanyahu, pumping and dancing with him. So they went ahead and did this very, very crazy, reckless move that they did. Far worse than the war in Iraq. In any case, actually, the Iraqi war, these guys in checking Iran after the Shah overthrow, these guys did what they did to Amin against your country and government, which you guys are not even annoyed about. So they got Saddam Hussein, propped him up, so that they used Saddam Hussein to check Iran. Saddam Hussein reached up, tested the thing like in Teba,
he refused to koto.
You know, and now he did for a bit, and then I said at the peak of it he changed. So they actually financed Saddam Hussein to start a war against Iran. So the original Iran-Iraq war was started by who?
America.
Iraq, yeah, but at the behest of America because they're arming them. So when Saddam Hussein decided to stretch and then go to Kuwait, it was too much. That's why they decided to get rid of him. So it's a global game. So that is what they're doing in the Middle East. See what they're doing in Venezuela. In Venezuela's case, because Venezuela is only matched by Tehran, I think, Iran, in terms of global oil capacity and output. A free and democratic socialist is Venezuela, especially if not Maduro, if a Chavez kind of style, I'm not undermining Maduro, but if a Chavez kind of guy emerges in Venezuela with the intellect they have, with a little bit of a UPC contribution, you know, these guys would create a new power in Venezuela that beats Japan. You know, and to beat Japan is, I mean, to beat that level is to neutralize Anglo-American power, which is rested on America, Canada, New Zealand, and yeah, which one is the other one? New Zealand and the other small island. Do you know what? These are Anglo-Saxon establishment nation states, and I find it very unfortunate that young Africans follow these guys blindly without appreciation of those things. The power of racism over the last 500 years continues. I'm still answering it because that's exactly part of what's happening. Because if you see from some Israelis, they see the Arab as the crude other. Forget about this biblical nonsense that is Holy Land and the determination that the people you cannot touch. You know, if that's the case, there is no way in which Jesus, the Jesus that I know, the biblical Jesus, would come today and associate with Netanyahu's position. He wouldn't. There is no way he would. So, you know, as long as that's the case, I'm extremely confident the Netanyahus can go ahead and have their own funny thing. For me, my heaven is going to be my heaven of Obana Jesus. And the other day, did you see a clip where there is these Israeli soldiers breaking a statue of Jesus in Lebanon.
I saw.
It's massively insulting. So no, Netanyahu and Trump are doing those things to push. It's an ideological thing and nothing else. An ideological thing, but they are able to do so because of the cowardice of people who come to rule Africa for 40 years and they cannot even develop East African community. A cowardice of people who come to rule Africa for 40 years and they cannot even extend a rail line from here, to town in Kampala.
No, they are doing it. They are doing it.
A cowardice of people who come and steal our rail lines and they say they take them to Kigali. A cowardice of people who come and find our banks and other financial institutions and they turn them into banks in the roofs and ceilings. A cowardice of guys who the best they can do is to irrigate tomatoes using a plastic bottle. So that is terrible. And meanwhile, what's happening? The guys who are fighting in Iran are drones, except those drones kill real human beings, especially missiles sent from Iran, from Israel and America.
Okay.
It's very sad.
Thank you so much, Comrade Joseph Ochieno Pinte.
Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.